welcome back. And for those that are just joining in, we wish you a happy new year. It is not too late to wish you a happy new year. This is how we do it here on Smart 24 TV. We kickstart off your day with Smart Means Business. I'm Joran Paul Sanko, and later on Rita Cavagnoro will be taking you through. But besides that, here we drive business. Here we drive business reports, business stories. Here we give you all details and all the information business. And it's from that same angle that we continue with more of the business. And then the next story is concerning the East African crude oil pipeline project. As the Tanzanian delegation says, the project is set to generate employment opportunities for both Ugandans and the Tanzanians. The East African crude oil pipeline project is expected to generate a lot of revenue for Uganda and Tanzania, with oil investments expected to hit 15 billion US dollars. That is only in investment. The 1,443 kilometer long pipeline running from Hoima in western Uganda to Tanga Port in mainland Tanzania is a key, or rather at the port in Tanzania, is a key infrastructure project for Uganda's realization of fast oil, and has 4 joint venture partners, which include Total Energies with 62%, Uganda has 15%, Tanzania also 15%, that is a 30% owned by the 2 East African community countries, and then the remaining 8% is owned by China's CNOOC company. Let's have the details. The East African crude oil pipeline project is expected to generate a lot of revenue for Uganda and Tanzania, with oil investments expected to hit 15 billion US dollars. The 1,443 kilometer long pipeline running from Hoima in western Uganda to Tanga Port in Tanzania is a key infrastructure project for Uganda's realization of fast oil, and has 4 joint venture partners, including Total Energies having 62%, with Uganda having 15%, Tanzania with 15%, and China's CNOOC company with 8%. Ambassador Naimi Switi Aziz believes the East African crude oil pipeline project will benefit the youth through employment opportunities and trade, but only if the people take the advantage.
It's a huge mega project between our 2 countries. Very strategic, and it's got a lot of benefits. And trade is one of them. Obviously, the pipeline, the building, and how it's going to affect the population surrounding the project. And we both stand to benefit, Uganda, Tanzania, in terms of those who will be supplying things to the project. You have the communities living where the project is going to run. They also will be benefiting. You have the youth, the people that will be employed throughout the project, that will be working on the project. So it's going to provide employment. It's going to provide, new areas of cooperation, obviously, from Tanga, actually where the project is going to, the main position in Tanzania, all the way to Hoima.
Meanwhile, His Excellency Dr. Aziz Ponari Mlima, the Tanzanian High Commissioner in Uganda, notes that in November 2021, there was a joint business forum that was attended by both presidents of Uganda and Tanzania, specifically focused on the issue of oil and gas.
It's just to add just 1 or 2 points. The project, the ECO project, it has got cross-cutting benefits from where it starts to where it ends, from Hoima all the way to Tanga Port in Tanzania. And recently, it was November last year, we had a joint business forum between Tanzania and Uganda, specifically focused on the issue of gas and oil and gas. And our 2 presidents were there, and the business community from Uganda and the business community from Tanzania took part. The idea is just to have a cross-pollination of the 2 business community to be able to take advantage of the project, so that the 2 countries benefit, especially the private sector.
He, however, clarified on the possibilities of Ugandans investing in Tanzania, and he believes that all the issues will be discussed in the ongoing Joint Permanent Commission to see that all political, social and economic issues are mitigated.
For Ugandan to invest in Tanzania, Just to touch on that, we have the Joint Business Forum, which managed to bring these two private sector together so that they can be able to see the opportunity of doing business in Tanzania and investing there. And it is vice versa also for the Tanzanian business community to be able to take part in investment in business here in Uganda. And as you know, the joint business, the Joint Permanent Commission, the one we are having today, and the next few days, is just to bring the two governments together to iron out issues relating to laws, regulations, and everything, so that our people from our two countries benefits politically, economically, socially, and so on. So that's why we are here, to have this diplomatic approach of JPC, but the main idea is to bring these two countries together. And
it is estimated that just the construction phase of the East African crude oil pipeline project, the two partner states of Uganda and Tanzania, will see an increase of over 60% in foreign direct investments, and that the investment in the oil and gas project shall total up to $20 billion, with the East African crude oil pipeline project investment alone at over $3.5 billion. His Excellency Dr. Aponari Mlima, the ambassador of the High Commission of the United Republic of Tanzania to Uganda, and then the other is Ambassador Azizi Sweety, and she's actually here on a 3-day visit in the ongoing 4th session of the Uganda Tanzania JPC, which is the joint the Tanzania, that is the JPC, which is the Joint Permanent Commission. Okay, and away from that, let's talk health insurance. When you look at this, government has been called to fast-track enactment into law. This comes after the government has been called to fast-track the enactment of the National Health Insurance Scheme Bill into law. According to the National Household Survey Report 2020, only 3.9% of the population have access to health insurance. Speaking to journalist Peter Seru, a programs specialist at Health and Human Rights Advocacy at Center for Health, Human Rights and Development, the implementations of health insurance can't work without the law. That's according to him. Pedison Mobere reports.
Expanding financial risk protection and social protection through national health insurance is high on the national policy agenda. Uganda's National Health Policy 2 and Health Sector Development Plan 2015-16 to 2019-20, Health Financing Strategy 2015-25 focus on accelerating the movement towards universal health coverage by committing to a national health insurance scheme as a way to ensure households have equitable access to basic health services and to protect households from financial risk associated with high out-of-pocket health care payments.
Government put in place a health financing strategy with the hope of putting in place mechanisms that will help the health sector cope with a growing population, but also with a growing financing. Unfortunately, in terms of practice, things have gone really bad. One of the things that the health financing strategy anticipated was to have in place a national health insurance scheme that is practiced across the world. Actually, World Health Organization says that for you to achieve universal health coverage, health insurance is key. And like the statement has clearly indicated, that in Uganda we have only 3.9% of the population insured, and that is largely corporate.
Peter Echweru, a programs specialist, Health and Human Rights Advocacy at Center for Health, Human Rights and Development, CIHAD, urged the government to prioritize National Health Insurance Scheme Bill, saying that the implementation of the health insurance can't work without law.
Our prayer is that we have in place a national health insurance scheme that helps everybody when they have a crisis. Kenya, Rwanda all have health insurance schemes. if you look at Kenya currently, we just adopted theirs lately. Their health insurance coverage is at 18%. If you look at Rwanda, which started a little earlier, they're at 86%. And that means that when you go to a health facility, you're able to at least get a fair health service delivery mechanism within public health infrastructure. So we believe that it is important that government prioritizes the National Health Insurance Scheme Bill, because without law, you cannot begin to implement national health insurance. There have been contentions. You remember Parliament passed the bill, it went to the President, he didn't assent to it, and it is back. And yet the process has to start afresh. So we are thinking that this is a critical issue that as a country, if we are to deal with our continuous problems of health financing, we need to deal with. Currently, by the way, government only contributes about 15% of health expenditure. Here we are talking.
Similarly, the Uganda Vision 2040 and National Development Policy 2, National Social Protection Policy, reiterate the need to establish a national social protection system which defines social protection to mean public and private interventions to address risks and vulnerabilities that expose people to high financial risk, including affordable national health insurance as one of the 7 priority interventions.
How much money is spent in health? The one you pay from your pocket when you go to health, the one your health insurer pays, the one the donors contribute, that all together constitutes what we call health expenditure, okay? Of that, you only have government contributing 15%. Remember, health is a social service, which is supposed to be a preserve of government. So if government is contributing only 15%, then you know that when you fall sick in this country, you're on your own. You sort yourself. Instead of thinking that, yes, I'll go to a public health facility. That explains why when you go to a health facility, you're unlikely to find a doctor. You're unlikely to find medicine. Because all these things have cost implications.
Uganda has a low proportion of people on private health insurance. In 2019, the Ministry of Health estimates only 1% of the population have private health insurance. According to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics of 2016, Uganda Demographic Health Survey, 94% of the women and men aged 15 to 49 years have no human health coverage. According to Ekeru, the lack of national health insurance has as well led to limited access to blood, which has caused high levels of maternal deaths in the country.
That 42 to 43% of death of mothers in this country is because they cannot actually access blood. And you've talked to health workers who will tell you, when a mother needs blood and you don't have blood in the health facility, you just watch them die before you. And this has happened a lot of places. So for every 100 mothers that die, 42 of them actually died because they could not access blood. During the Christmas break, there were media reports that actually most health facilities didn't have blood. And this getting blood, processing it, and taking it back to health facilities require resources. Uganda Blood Transfusion Service has for the last about 5 years been running on a budget of 17 billion shillings.
So according to the National Household Survey Report 2020, only 3.9% of the population have access to health insurance. You can see the size, the percentage is quite small, only 3.9. And this 3.9 are majorly those of us who are working in formal employment, but the majority who are not in the informal sector don't have this insurance package. So our call is government needs to fast track the enactment of the National Health Insurance Bill into law. So once this is done, we shall be moving on a right path towards achieving universal health for everyone.
Reports indicate that hemorrhage continues to be a leading cause of maternal deaths, contributing 42% of all deaths reviewed. Of these, postpartum hemorrhage contributes 90% of all hemorrhage cases reported.
Because the reason some health facilities do not actually transfuse blood is that they do not have facilities for keeping blood. And so if you fall sick, they have to run maybe to the next highest level facility to look for blood, because you need a fridge to keep this blood. So we believe that incrementally, government needs to continue to allocate resources for blood collection, for blood processing, and for blood distribution in this country.
For this matter, therefore, government has been urged to consider allocating funds to the Ministry of Health, Uganda Blood Bank, and transfusion services to increase blood accessibility. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV.
Pedison Mumbere, the government has been called to fast-track the enactment of the National Health Insurance Scheme Bill into law because the implementation of health insurance can't work without law. But in most cases, some families and some people have been insuring their families against health-related issues. Okay. Besides that, let's turn our eyes to the next business report. This one is coming in from the civil society organizations who appeal to the stakeholders to ensure budget framework is geared towards economic recovery. Like I said, this very we're looking at how we can recover as a nation and as a country amidst the fact that in the last 2 years we've had issues concerning COVID-19. The civil society organizations have called upon stakeholders to ensure that the national budget framework paper is geared towards prioritizing economic recovery. They said the government should lay strategies to reduce public wastage through rationalization of funds, as according to the national budget strategy of 2022-2023. Government of Uganda will continue focusing on recovery measures from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic that will see it meet its debt management objectives. The civil society organizations, however, believe that government should table better strategies that will reduce public wastage through the rationalization of the funds. Check the details.
Then, in 2016, largely due to its stable and consistent macroeconomic policies. However, Patrick Irwanga-Kane, a budget policy specialist working with civil society budget advocacy Salzburg, says that the way these exemptions are offered is not clear, where he called for a clear policy to guide tax exemptions and other investor incentives.
From these tax exemptions, but how are we monitoring it? Who qualifies to get an exemption? Now, when this came out clearly, and a key recommendation, because in the report they did make mention of one sector, for example, in the steel sector, there's a 10-year tax holiday for some companies. So there are companies who are benefiting from waivers in terms of import duty, but others are not. So now, this creates room for abuse and mismanagement. And the Auditor General was so clear, and in his recommendation, wanted to see Ministry of Finance harmonize this so that it's closed. We have a clear framework where we get to understand how do you qualify for an exemption, what are the benefits that are there for you if you are to get an exemption. So that is our call. So we want to see a clear framework.
According to Irwanga-Kane, they cited that the 2019-2020 Office of the Auditor General report, which noted that there is no clear policy guideline for the issuance, management and monitoring of the various tax benefits and incentives issued by the government to different beneficiaries.
Our government has put in place several measures to attract investment. Key among it is by offering tax exemptions. As civil society organizations, we are really concerned about it because the way these incentives, the tax exemptions are managed, it's not so clear. This came out so strongly in the Auditor General's report of 1920, where the Auditor General highlighted that the issues of insurance, management, and monitoring of the various tax benefits in this country, it's wanting. That's an indicator that, yes, we have so many companies that have benefited from these tax exemptions, but how are we monitoring it? Who qualifies to get an exemption?
He notes that The absence of clear mechanism and framework exposes the scheme to mismanagement and abuse, with no mechanism to assess the impact of tax benefits, with some of the offers expiring without follow-up.
If you are a company operating out here and you don't know that some of these benefits exist, if they do exist, how do you qualify for it? So now that is what needs to be made clear. The ministry needs to come out and make it public and say, this is how you benefit from an exemption. And these are the people who have so far benefited from an exemption. Because without such a clear framework, it's hard. There are companies who are losing out, and there are companies who are benefiting. So we want to see that harmony, that everyone benefits from. How will a local company get to know? Because most of these beneficiaries are majorly the foreign investors, because for them, as they make entry into the country, it's one of the key things they negotiate, because we attract them by flagging those low-hanging fruits. Say, come invest in Uganda, these are the benefits. You're going to get exemptions here, you're going to get tax holidays here. So now, the local companies may not be aware about it. So if we are to promote the local companies as well, we need to make public known, sensitize them, so that they get to know this kind of benefit.
The Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group as well proposed for a provision of 100 billion shillings to capitalize the Uganda Development Corporation. Uganda Development Corporation is an investment institution established as government entity with the mandate to facilitate the industrial and economic development of Uganda.
Now, when we analyze the National Budget Framework Paper for financial 22-23, there is unfunded priority where UDC requires an additional 100 billion for recapitalization. So now our call is yes, this is a good thing that government needs to really prioritize. They need to get that 100 billion and give UDC so that UDC can continue investing on their behalf, because once UDC is not adequately recapitalized, that means they're not in position to meet their obligations. Remember, these companies that UDC invest in are spread all over this country. A new company that government is proposing is having a sugar factory in Jinja, targeting the outgrowers, and that can only be achieved through UDC. And UDC, since they're the investment arm of government, they will invest money in that company, which in the long run will benefit the outgrowers, because we have been having issues of sugar.
Rubangakani said that the COVID-19 pandemic has a devastating impact on the economy, hence a need to redirect budgetary resources towards wealth, job creation, as well as industrialization, export promotion, and other areas with high returns on investment. He noted that these will play a key role in the speedy recovery of the economy.
That's our call. We want to see UDC receive money, because we are looking at the private sector as an engine of growth. They employ so many. Industrialization is one of the key issues we are driving in this country. So for us to industrialize from the government side, because government is now pushing towards setting up factories, industries in this country. And the only entity that is mandated to do that on the behalf of government.
Rubangakani has also made the recommendation to the Parliament's Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry. Committees of Parliament have since been receiving proposals from different government ministries, departments and agencies, and private entities on the 43 trillion shillings national budget framework paper for the coming financial year. Betson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV.
And on the same note, after the break, we'll be analyzing the issue of economic recovery in the country, plus the ongoing fuel crisis. And after the break, I'll be joined by the center and the founder for the Center for Budget and Tax Policy in Uganda. And we'll be digesting all those issues. Stick around.